Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday or whatever day you end up watching the recording. I'm Claire Wasserman, founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book all about helping women earn more and live better. Part of that mission is inviting other women on our LinkedIn page, although we're also streaming live actually on Facebook and YouTube. I want to showcase women who share our mission in helping women earn more and live better. And I invite different kinds of women on, mostly coaches, to speak specifically about a certain aspect of self-advocacy. Sometimes it's financial advocacy, professional advocacy, it could be, personal, physical advocacy. And today I am so excited to introduce you to Monica Rivera, who is a business clarity coach, marketing expert. She's also a paid speaker. By the way, Monica, I love when you wrote me your bio. You didn't just say speaker, but you said paid speaker. Thought that was ladies get paid of you. But also in your bio, you wrote that you are a reformed self-doubter, passionate about building empowering communities. And drawing from your own challenging experiences, you founded a coaching and consultancy group called You Want to Do What, which is dedicated to helping women build a personal brand and business around their passions. Now, if you've been following us along on these LinkedIn Lives, you know that I leave it open to the guest to tell me what is it that they're feeling most fired up to talk about. And for you, you said, you wanted to talk about creating your own opportunities, how anybody at any point in their journey can really be intentional about the direction they want to go. So first and foremost, welcome, Monica. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much for having me and really just inviting me to have this conversation about something that I'm passionate about and I think also really aligns with your community and your company as well.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, I know we're focusing on how to create your own opportunities, but I also want to talk about at some point your TEDx talk, which is called The Flipside of Loneliness, which I know is a very hot topic recently. Hillary Clinton actually recently wrote an op-ed on loneliness. So you were there first. And not only that topic, but also how do you get a TEDx talk? Because there could be people watching this who are like, ooh, I heard that she's a paid speaker. I want to be a paid speaker too. So, that whole experience. But you didn't start out like this. Like you had a 9-to-5. This is your journey. Tell us from the beginning of the 9-to-5 to you having this moment and then the next steps of I'm going to create something that is my own.
Yes, absolutely. So I had a 9-to-5 and I'm a first gen. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. My parents are Puerto Rican and Cuban. And if you're a first gen and you have any sort of an immigrant story in your life, you're often told, pick the job that is safe, pick something that's secure, don't rock the boat was a message that I received quite often as I was growing up. And so that conditioning really started to stunt a lot of the big aspirations I had. So I think I knew from very early on, I wanted to go into entrepreneurship. But when you're receiving the message of just get the steady paycheck, it kind of implants and sticks a little bit. And then sort of tying into the TED Talk, when I was 16, my family passed away between 16 and 23. And so these ambitions that I had of I'm going to be this rebel that's not going to follow the status quo and I'm going to blaze my own trails, it didn't have an opportunity to happen because I had to shift into survival mode. So all of that conditioning that I thought was just a way for them to throw rocks in my path actually became something that I really needed to rely on. And so I graduated college and I went into corporate America very quickly. And I started to do what a lot of people do, which is climb the corporate ladder and just get from one rung to the next. And I was a vice president at 26 and I had people that I managed and all these things. And eventually I got to this rung where I started to ask for more opportunities, but I wasn't getting the opportunities in the same way that I had previously, but I also wasn't feeling the same. I wasn't feeling as excited about my corporate career as I had been in the past. There had been a lot of reorgs that had happened that were taking me just 1 degree away from where I was and 1 degree. And all of a sudden you look around and you're like, well, this is not exactly what I had planned for my professional life. And I'd gotten to that point where I started to feel like there was a lot of self-doubt. because I thought, well, why aren't these doors opening? Why am I feeling dissatisfied? Is it saying something about me? And I'm struggling to figure out what the next step is supposed to be. And I realized maybe this is actually the time to start doing something on my own and exploring what it could look like to actually have my own business, because I wasn't in survival mode any longer. And I realized that if I just took a couple of steps up from the wall that I thought my shoulders were against, I could actually see that there were a lot more options in front of me than I originally thought.
I want to shout out some folks in the chat. Love to see engagement. Somebody said, this topic is right on time for me. I was recently laid off and I've been flirting with the idea of starting a business. Then someone responded, yes, very exciting place to be. I recently went through a very similar experience and founded my own thing. So yeah, I want to talk about this dichotomy of like terrible experiences, which you and many of us have had, right? From being laid off to losing parents, right? Door shutting to creating your own door. So not just opening a door, but creating your own door. Yeah. What would you say as tangibly as possible that folks need, both mindset wise or strategy wise, to like see the light as best as they can?
I definitely believe that it is a combination of mindset and strategy. They have to work together, because I can give you the best strategy in the world and a blueprint of exactly everything you need to do. But if your mind is filled with thoughts of why you can't do it, or you have self-doubt, then that transformation and that success just isn't going to happen. It's going to feel you're going to get one step forward and then pull yourself 4 steps back and have a really hard time understanding why you're doing that. So I believe in combining two of those and working on them in parallel paths, if you will. So the first thing I would do is get really clear on what I call your set, which is your skills, expertise, and your talents. And a great way to do this, whether or not you're in the position, as the person mentioned, that they're laid off right now, or if you're someone who's just thinking about, I want to add an additional income stream, or maybe I want to do something else, or I want to have a full-fledged business or a side hustle. Start out by mapping the skills, expertise, and talents that you already have available to you. And I challenge you to really spend time truly brainstorming on this. There is no idea that is too small. There is no skill that you have that is not worthy of being on the list. I love to share this example of watching Shark Tank. And I'm not sure if you watch Shark Tank, Claire, but there was a woman who, I remember, she was a mom of many kids, and she talks about all the laundry that she has to do. And she would wash the bed sheets, and the bed sheets would get tangled. And apparently, because she washed laundry so frequently, this was a problem for her. And she thought other people must be dealing with these tangled bed sheets. She created this thing, which is these little round plastic things that go on each corner of the bed sheet. And somehow, miraculously, through a science that I don't understand, they don't tangle anymore. But she walked away with a deal for, I think, $250,000. So she saw a problem in her everyday life, which is, I do laundry all the time and I need to save as many minutes as possible. And she created a solution to fill that void. So when you're coming up with your own list, really truly put all of the things down that you feel like you're good at, because there are ways to monetize so many things that you have going on in your life. Once you have that list, and maybe you have many things and you're like, I don't know which to choose from, start to narrow down. What would I actually want to do on a daily basis for the next 12 to 24 months? Just look at the next 2 years, and then your list will shrink a little bit more from that. Once you've narrowed down your list, I want you to start experimenting. So often we think, if I pick the one thing, I am stuck and cemented in this spot for the rest of my life and I cannot change. You can always change. You can always pivot. You can always just stop for a second and reassess, but it's only going to happen through experimentation. And anytime we're doing something new, all the natural feelings of doubt and trepidation and wondering if you're nuts and do you want to share this idea or not share this idea, all of those things are very natural. Welcome those feelings, honor those feelings, and then keep going.
Brilliant. Another person said, thank you for sharing your personal story, Monica, and for serving as an example of what's possible despite personal loss. I love it. Thank you for everybody. We miss you. This being remote, it's like, so glad we can connect with all of y'all, but like, I don't feel it until you jump in. So, promote yourself too, people. Question about experiment, because I could not agree more with that. This whole mentality of things are not permanent. If you look at life more like an experiment, it's so empowering. What
Yeah.
would be an example of an experiment for you in your life that maybe you ran? Because I think part of running the experiment is, of course, yes, the mindset, but also within the experiment, knowing what works and what doesn't work, right? Being able to identify the variables. What do you look for in an experiment? That's not always so easy and straightforward. So I'm curious, yeah, for you, what has experimentation, personal, professional experimentation look like, I guess?
Sure. So the very first thing that I did was I started a podcast back in 2016 or 2017. It's been so long now. And I had been a listener for about 15 years, which means that I'll do the math. I'm a little older. And so I'd listened to podcasts for such a long time. And I'd actually bought a microphone many years before and talked myself out of using it, thinking, oh, I'm this marketer who's going to want to hear from me. I'm not sure what I want to talk about. And I just went for it finally. I picked it up and said, we're going to look at it. We're going to record something and we're just going to see how it goes. And it was a hot mess. I would love to tell you, like, it was such a brilliant first episode. It was a terrible first episode. I wouldn't recommend the way I started to any of my clients or anybody else. But it was what I needed to do at the time because I knew if I published an episode and taught myself what I needed to know, every episode thereafter would improve. So that's a great example of an experimentation where I did all of the things wrong. I wasn't even mindful of the goal. I just knew that I needed to wake myself up. And if you're in a situation right now where you're feeling not even the negative emotions, Claire, if you're just feeling numbed out, you need to just wake yourself up. And doing something new is an amazing way to do that. I liken it to jumping into a pool and not knowing what the temperature is going to be. You're going to wake yourself up. And so that's what I did for me. And I kept improving. And then what I did after that is I started to put myself in the room with people that knew much more than I did about podcasting. So I could start to ask questions of, why does my audio sound tinny? Why does it sound echoey? If someone recommended this microphone, but it doesn't really seem to be working for me. And I started to learn more about the art of podcasting and editing. I remember there was a time where I sat in the room, I kid you not, 13 hours editing an episode because I was a newbie and I was just putting so much time and care into it. But that was part of the process. And it actually was fun learning how to do that because I started to light myself back up and realize that I was capable of so much more than I thought that I was. And so I would say when you start with experimenting, realize that you're not trying to come out with perfection. You're not trying to hit a home run on the first shot out. You want to just continue to show up and then improve from there.
Right. Yep. Mary said, I love the idea of wake yourself up. So important. And then somebody else said, love this. I just started posting videos for my business and they're not the best, but they're up and I know I'll improve. This is great. Like, it's so interesting. Oftentimes we feel like the first steps or the early part is the hardest part, which perhaps for some people it is. But I actually find sometimes the hardest part is when things you've started and it's sort of working, but like you need to up level. You know, even you saw that in your own career, right? Like you got to VP, 26, right? There was momentum that was generated, and then there's a plateau. I actually find the plateau part in a life and a business can be really confusing because I guess what got you there won't necessarily get you to the next, what got you here is not going to necessarily get you there.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm curious in, past the first steps of just getting momentum started, honing the opportunity. So maybe that's the monetizing conversation. I don't know which direction you want to take our conversation, but the like, all right, I've identified my skill set. I think I'm going to go in this direction, whether it's self, employment or pivoting to a new industry, but like the money piece or
yes, absolutely.
Talk to
and
me
I
about
think a lot of that comes with assessing where you are. So we start with the new thing and it's, as you mentioned, it's shiny, it's new, it's exciting. And all of that momentum can really carry you a long time. And then if you don't assess, that's exactly what happens. You sort of hit this plateau and now you're in this position of like, well, what's next? What am I going to do with this thing? And I have a perfect example from my own life. During the pandemic, I started a run club. And I'm not a runner, so I just want to say that. But I wanted to be outside. And so I committed to, I'm just going to show up 3 or 4 times a week. I'm not going to set a timer. I'm just simply going to go and run and see how it feels and not put any pressure. And at one point I injured myself about 2 months in. And so I said, you know what? I think when I get back from this injury, I'm going to start a run club for other people that just want to move and don't want to feel competitive or pressure or anything about it. And it grew to almost 2,000 people, which was phenomenal. But I realized like there's something here, but I had never monetized it and I never thought about monetizing it. So then that became a challenge of how do you then monetize something that has built a reputation for being free? And so I wasn't able to successfully figure that piece out because it really was just a hobby for me at the time.
Yeah.
However, with my business, I had a different goal. I knew that I wanted to be able to help people in this way. When we think about women, and Claire, you know the statistics better than anybody of how we're not paid. There's not an equitable wage of the work that we do. That's the invisible work in the home and the extra hours that we simply put in as being women in our homes. And if I think about just my Latin community as a whole, we are underpaid by $288 million. That's just, I mean, when we think about it, it's actually $288 billion per year when we think about what we get paid compared to a white male. So when I see that deficit, I think it's not just about creating our own opportunities because we're bored. It's really creating our own opportunities in order to get some form of equity and try to level out the playing field for ourselves and be able to have the same dreams and wish fulfillments that we see other people have, but that have been so hard to really be available to us because of these other conditions that are happening. So I say all that to say that I think when you think about how to monetize and how to actually grow your business, that reassessment piece of like, what have I done right now, but really being intentional about what do I want to happen and how do I map to those things. So as you said, what got you there won't get you to the next place, meaning that you have to start changing your tactics. It might mean collaborating. It might mean going into rooms that you haven't ventured in before. And this is where creating your opportunities doesn't just happen one time. It has to continuously happen. It's a practice as you're growing your business or as you're changing your career, as you're moving laterally or want to get promoted. All of those things are in combination with each other, but you have to take time to reassess and not just work so in your business that you stop actually looking up and creating new goals for yourself. Every year, every quarter, a corporation is looking at their projections versus their actuals. And as a business owner, a side hustler, whatever that is, you also have to do the same thing.
Fabulous. What are some reflection points that you, whether it was you or a client you worked with, or just general suggestions for folks really looking, like what should we be looking for and what should we be asking ourselves as we reflect on, is this working for me?
I think one of the first things I want to say is look at the ways that you're already losing money now and take an honest assessment. And I find that there tends to be like these 5 sneaky ways that show up. One is not asking for a promotion. So that's a way that it's actually costing you money and it's really taking some time. And that fear of being able to advocate for yourself that way is also going to present itself in your business. And that's one of the things that I've learned. Anything that's unresolved within you will absolutely show up in your business and be a point where you have to resolve at some point in order for your business to excel. Also, when you're negotiating your salary, and I'm also talking about setting prices as a business owner, that feeling, I like to challenge my clients to pick a number that makes your pen shake. And I think that's like so important because oftentimes we undersell ourselves and we undervalue the cost of our time, the cost that it actually takes to complete a project or to work with someone. We feel there's such trepidation in saying like, this is my actual number and feeling like I own this number, that we always lowball ourselves. So if your pen is shaking, then that is a good place for you to start because oftentimes it's really not enough anyway, but it's a good launching pad to at least go by the number where your pen shakes.
Well, because also they're going to negotiate you down.
Absolutely.
Like the starting, like the number that they offer you, they're expecting you to negotiate up, and the number you put out, they're expecting to negotiate down. These are not real numbers that you begin with. So padded, for sure.
Exactly. And also when you're a business owner, there are going to be some prices that you want to set that are going to feel like very true for you. So as an example, I have a client who offers done for you services when it comes to graphic design. I think for her, she knows how much she needs to charge for certain projects. She has a career of nearly 20 years doing this. So it's not about exploiting anyone or trying to overcharge, but it's really understanding that for a project, this is what it's going to entail. Now, maybe there's some wiggle room for negotiation, but also she has to feel firm and confident in saying, no, like the price is the price for this. And feeling comfortable to sit in the silence of not, oh, but I'm sorry, and let me explain why this is the price. Like even that explanation is the thought in your head that you're not yet sold yourself on, that you're okay charging this price and it is a fair price. And sometimes you do have to be okay letting business walk away if it means that you're out of integrity with yourself. And I'll also just say, lastly, investing is another way that I think we kind of talk ourselves out of opportunities. So creating opportunities looks very different, and investing is also another opportunity as well. I know, speaking from my own background as a first-gen Latina, we have such a small amount of people. I think the statistic is something only 15% of Latinas actually invest in the stock market. Like that number is because we've been conditioned to put the money in the mattress or to just have it in a savings account. Those are all ways that we can create more opportunities for ourselves.
Love it. Love it. There's something also very important here I want to underscore, because folks may be listening going, all this sounds great, but it also sounds very tiring. And there's something that I really like that you put on your website is that I help women package their expertise, monetize their skills, and build a brand they love without losing their minds. So great. Let's talk about the sustainability piece of all of this, right? We're running a marathon here to continue your group of running. So you're running a marathon here. So again, you're getting the momentum and there's going to be these like highs and then there's the lows. Like proactively, what are some things folks can do to be ready for the long haul when it comes to having to self-create opportunities? Again, speaking to folks who are both full-time or maybe entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the entrepreneurs first.
Yep.
Remember, you're distinguishing yourself as an entrepreneur and a business owner versus a content creator. And oftentimes those lines can get blurred because we wear so many hats as the owner of the business. But if you're not in the business of actually creating content and being a full-time content creator, then it's important to know when to pull back. So oftentimes I'll meet with clients and they want to be omnipresent on all the platforms, doing all the things. And that's great once you are able to get some help, once you have some traction, and also most importantly, when you have mastered one platform. So really trying to divide yourselves in 10 different ways. Content creation is just one way to get a lead on social media. That's one thing. That's not a marketing strategy. That is a tactic that I explain to people. And so that's really important. You will exhaust yourself out if you are constantly trying to feed the machine of social media. So it's important to understand where are your people and then start to create content in that area. How can you create long-term content? How can you make sure that you're searchable on the internet so it's not after 4 minutes, it goes away on this platform. After an hour, it goes away on this other platform. So those are some things that just to kind of think about in terms of burnout is to really make sure that you're very intentional about how you're spending time on your business. And also to remember that the goal of the business, one, is to serve, but it's also to make money. And that's okay to remember that the goal of the business is to make money. So if you're not making money, then actually spend time reassessing. Don't just create more content. So for the person that is working full time, I want to say the same thing. It's really about, I call it your power hours. It is the hours of the day that you feel most aligned to really put energy and effort into your business. Now, this is going to look different because people could say, well, my power hours are 10 to 2, but I'm working a job at this time. What are the power hours outside of your full-time job where you still feel energized? You still feel in a spirit of creativity and you have that momentum where these are the quiet hours that I can have. For some of my clients, it's the very first thing in the morning. So they wake up a little bit earlier and they know they might have a pocket of 90 minutes where they can just be laser focused on the things that are building their business. For other people, those are night owls. I am not a night owl, so I cannot connect with that group, but I completely understand. And they just take that time at the end of the day to do it. So there are ways when we really start to look at our time, how we're managing our time, but then also knowing that when we want to do something and we have that why of why we want to have this business, why we want to do something else, it can become so clear on these are the hours that I'm going to get it done. So it is manageable, but only if you are intentional about what it is that you're doing and not spending time on activities that are bringing very low level impact to what you're trying to do next.
So good. So good. Yeah. It's this like constant loop of action, reflection,
Yes,
like
absolutely.
momentum, pause, these like seemingly contradictory things. It's actually doing them together that makes this work. Any, obviously protect identifying details, of course, but like I would love to hear about some of your clients, people you've worked with, the challenge that they came to you with, and how you walk them through movement,
Yeah,
and so those next steps. Always love a good success story. So inspire us, Monica.
absolutely. So I have one client who's a therapist. She's still a therapist. She wanted to start to do just some therapy adjacent work, which is how she calls it. And she is a powerhouse of a woman. She's an adjunct professor. She does all of these different things. But what she found was within the system, she wasn't able to help as many people as she wanted to help. But she wanted to do so in a way that also, to what we were just talking about, wasn't burning herself out and wasn't tiring her. So we created a boot camp that then became a digital course. So we piloted the program, and so it was a 3-day boot camp over the weekend where it was with couples and helping couples understand what their green flags were going to be and how they could actually work together with each other, have better communication, break down a lot of the things that were happening within their relationship. But then we were able to package that, and it became a digital product that continues to serve people now. And so it was a way of, I have this passion, I love the work that I do, but I also have this need and this yearning to do something else and also serve in a different capacity. And that was one of the things. I also just want to share very quickly about another client that I helped who's a mom, and she's a relatively new mom. And she's been in her career, which is a very demanding career in politics, her entire time that she's been working. And it takes a toll, election after election, and it's a lot of things, and the world is changing, and it's a lot to keep up with. But as a new mom, she wanted to find other ways of, I have these other things that I want to speak about. And I really want to start getting on stages and not just speaking about things in regards to policy and politics, but I want to be able to do some other things. And so we mapped out where her signature talks were going to be and how she could leverage her network. She has a very large network, so that she could start pivoting to creating other opportunities for herself. And now she has all of these speaking engagements where she's no longer being asked only to talk about policy, but she can now talk about these other things that she's been skilled in this entire time, but didn't really have an opportunity to do that within the confines of her job, but was able to do that once we started to build her personal brand.
I love that. Do you want to maybe define personal brand real quick? We've had other coaches on here talk explicitly about it, but I'm always curious, for you, what is personal brand?
So for me,
and also maybe what it isn't too.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really simple. It's what are people saying about you when you're not in the room?
Got it. Yeah.
And I love to think of it that way, because if you want to be known for something, but those aren't the first 3 things someone is bringing up when they're talking about you, then there's a disconnect, because how you see yourself versus how everyone else is seeing you is not aligning. And so that's a clear indicator of, okay, it might be time to look at my personal brand, to revamp some things and start to change the momentum of how I want to be seen and what I want to be known for. So that's a very simple barometer. You can just ask people, hey, if you were going to introduce me to someone, or you were going to send an email connecting me to someone else, how would you describe me? And that's a great way to know. If this doesn't match, we have a problem. And so there's some things and tweaks and changes that need to be made.
I love that. I'm writing that down. I actually think that's a pretty good LinkedIn prompt too, for any brave souls out there. Post that on your LinkedIn. Like if you were to, trying to distill my elevator pitch / personal brand, if you were to introduce me via email to somebody, how would you describe me? Or also the next step to that, it might be interesting to see if the words that they choose reflect your values.
Absolutely. That's a big exercise that we do in working together. The values that you want to have, are you embodying that? And I think about that when it comes down to a LinkedIn post. Is a LinkedIn post that I'm writing right now, and I'm composing, does it match with the values that I want to embody? And that's always a good barometer. I had a client who felt very icky about sending too many emails. And I asked, well, let's take a quick assessment of the emails that you subscribe to. What is it that you like about them? Literally go in and start to define, okay, this is what I like. This makes me feel motivated, or I feel warmed, or I feel like it's a friend that's emailing. What are some of those things? And then if those are the things that you like, guess what? You get to create emails just like that, because that's going to be an extension of your community. So if you feel that you're receiving emails that are too aggressive or too salesy, then that's a perfect way of knowing, I don't want to write like this. This is not how I want to connect with my community. And then you don't. So,
Right.
yeah.
Love it. Technically, we're at time, so I would love for you, if there's any final words of wisdoms or things that you haven't yet shared, please do share. And of course, where people can find you, follow you, and most importantly, pay you. Which, by the way, folks, Monica's going to be jumping in afterwards to our LinkedIn page and posting all the URLs you need to connect with her. So make sure you follow us. Ladies Get Paid on LinkedIn, and of course ladiesgetpaid.com. But yeah, close us out with anything else that you'd like to share.
The last thing I want to share, and again, thank you for the time, but I want everyone to remember, if all you remember is this today, everything you want is on the other side of yes. Often we are telling ourselves no for trying something new, no for going to make the ask, or to even experiment into new waters. But everything you want is on the other side of yes. Don't be the person that says no to yourself.
Right.
So, and in terms of how you can find me, I love to play over on Instagram I'm at You Wanna Do What there. But if we're on LinkedIn, send me a request. I love to talk and meet with new people. I'm a connector of folks, and I love to I'll ask you a lot of intrusive questions because I'm just kind of curious by nature, but I would love to connect via social. And if you want to reach out to me, it's monica@youwannadowhat.com via email. We can have a more intimate conversation there.
Fabulous. And thank you to all for being so engaged on the chat. I'm Claire Wasserman. You can find me on LinkedIn or clairewasserman.com. Claire Gets Paid on Instagram, and of course, ladiesgetpaid.com and Ladies Get Paid on all social channels. We have an awesome speaker tomorrow as well, Nicole Lewis-Keeper, also going to be on LinkedIn Live, streamed simultaneously to our other channels, and we're talking about how to make sure that your inner critic doesn't become your total enemy, which is, we all struggle with that. We all do. So, but Monica, thank you for this. I'm so glad we could finally make this happen. We'll have to have you on again. Good to see Tara down there. Thank you so much, Monica, with the hands up emoji. Fantastic. Happy Wednesday, or whatever day you end up watching this. Best of luck. Now go get paid. Bye.